Welcome back to Untested Builds, where we figure out how to play as your favorite fictional characters in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Like and subscribe so you get notified whenever we post a new video. Comment below to suggest characters you want to see on the channel, and join the Patreon to vote in the current poll between Crom from Fire Emblem and also Smash Bros. Kiryu Kazuma from Yakuza, or Shantae from Shantae. Today we're building the Knight, not the Hollow Knight. That guy is the final boss, at least in some of the endings. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Today we're building the Knight, one of many empty husks forged in the shape of a bug animated by regret, created to imprison a hive mind so a worm could rule over the people, or bugs, who were once under its sway. Man, that's a lot to process. Let's just go to the goals. For our goals for this build, we're a Metroidvania protagonist. That means a lot of exploration, like behind the acquisition of certain abilities. Most of those are going to be mobility options, but there are some unique others. Second, we may have been born empty, but eventually our force of will becomes basically tangible. And third, we're really tiny. Everything in hollowness is a bug if you haven't noticed. For our stats, we're starting with 18 dexterity, the only thing keeping you from an early grave are sharp reflexes and quick instincts. 16 wisdom, the only thing keeping us alive are our sharp instincts and quick reflexes. 14 constitution, we can take a hit or 5, just depends on how big the other guy is. 12 strength, we jump and we climb a lot, and those are both tied to athletics. 10 intelligence, no idea how we figure out some of these puzzles without a brain, maybe we just remember them all in reverse. And 8 charisma, you don't talk much, you don't even make facial expressions. For our skills, we're legendary in acrobatics and athletics. This is an action platformer after all. Legendary religion, power in this world only comes from 2 places, deities and quasi-deities. Nothing master or expert proficiency, but we're trained in medicine. We don't know much, but drinking that blue sap certainly keeps our soul from leaking out. Training in nature and survival for all the exploring we've got ahead of us. And training in occultism. Some of those places you run into are a little bit esoteric. The Knight is a pixie, specifically a Malixie. If you want to be tiny and a bug person, this is pretty much your only option. In addition to being smaller than small and getting low light vision, we also gain the ability to speak and ask questions and receive answers from arthropods, and use our diplomacy to make an impression with them. Luckily, most bees, butterflies, moths, and beetles start indifferent or friendly towards us because we don't use much diplomacy. We're taking that amnesiac background, kind of hard to keep our thoughts straight when we get too far from home. Instead of a free feat, we get a third ability boost of our GM's choice. It'll be in character no matter what they choose as long as they don't put it into charisma. We're boosting our strength, dexterity, and wisdom since I'm the player and the GM on this side of the screen. For our ancestry feat, Evanescent Wings is more of a quality of life improvement than anything. Instead of being limited to a tiny PC on the ground, we have wings and we can use to hover in place as long as we don't actually leave our square. Meaning we can interact with things in our own square using only a single interact action like a normal medium-sized creature would. We're going to lock in as a champion, specifically a paladin of Vildeus. The Martinal Carter who presides over devotion, sacrifice, and scars is the perfect stand-in for the Hollowness King who would have had us sacrificed for another lifetime of peace. We gain Deific Weapon to upgrade our simple dagger to a nail with a d6 damage die. Most of the time we explore alone, but we get Retributive Strike to give an ally resistance to incoming damage as a reaction, and retaliate with a strike of our own if the enemy is within reach for those rare occasions we find ourselves with an unexpected ally. We also gain the shield block reaction if you want to carry around an actual sturdy shell on you. We can reduce an amount of incoming damage by our shield's hardness value when we have our shield raised and a strike hits us. But why stand around waiting to get hit when you can just heal back whatever damage you take? The Lay on Hands devotion spell is the first way we learn to use our focus, healing ourselves 6 hit points for a single action and a focus point. And for our class feat, Desperate Prayer lets us regain a focus point even mid-combat as a free action once per day when we start our turn with 0 focus points. We've got more spells we want to cast, but we've got the charisma of an actual insect, so we're taking a cleric dedication. We can cast more divine spells with our wisdom modifier instead. Right now that's just 2 cantrips. We've got light to make an object glow like a torch for a day. Low light vision can only get us so far when we're delving the deepest parts of hollowness. And we have no direction, so we don't get lost nearly as often before we can buy a map. We can always know which direction is north or up if that's more relevant in your playthrough for some reason. We'll take the cat fall feat to reduce the distance we use to calculate fall damage by 10 feet, eventually eliminating fall damage entirely once we're legendary in acrobatics. Level 3 champions gain Divine Ally that will forge into our nail to gain our choice of the disrupting, ghost touch, returning, or shifting properties during our daily preparations, and to add the critical specialization effects of that weapon for some persistent bleeding damage on a critical hit. For our general feat, Incredible Initiative gives us a +2 circumstance bonus to all of our initiative rolls. We're usually the ones starting all of the fights after all. The Quick Jump feat lets us perform a longer high jump in a single action by letting us skip the stride part of the action, and we gain our first real soul ability from Domain Initiate for Lament from Vildeus' Sorrow Domain. We force a will save and a 30-foot cone to deal 2d8 mental damage at the cost of a focus point. Level 5 champions gain weapon expertise for master proficiency in simple and martial weapons. And for our ancestry feat, Fate Influence lets us make our shadow a bit sharper with Grim Tendrils to force a Fortitude save on a 30-foot line, dealing 2d4 negative damage and 1 persistent bleeding damage to creatures who fail once per day as an innate primal spell. We'll get a little better at navigating our environment with Rapid Mental to use our athletic skill in place of our reflex proficiency when performing a Grab the Edge, and when we succeed on the check, we can pull ourselves onto said ledge. We hone our nail further too with Emblazoned Armament to give our dagger a +1 bonus to damage rolls, as long as we continue to follow Vildeus, that is. Level 7 champions gain armor expertise for expert proficiency in all armor types and unarmored defense, and weapon specialization for an extra 2 flat damage on our dagger attacks. We'll take on the Sprint Master Charm with the Fleet feat to gain an extra 5 feet of movement speed. We'll take the Wall Jump feat just in case one jump wasn't quite enough to grab that edge. Now we can use our momentum to launch ourselves off a wall up to 2 times in a turn thanks to Quick Jump. For our class feat, Expanded Domain Initiate gives us our first nail art with Weapon Surge from the Zeal domain. We can spend a focus point to give our next strike with our weapon a +1 status bonus to the attack roll, and it deals twice the normal amount of weapon damage die, scaling with our striking runes. Level 9 Paladins gain Lightning Reflexes for expert reflex saves, Juggernaut for master Fortitude saves, and critical success results on regular successes. Champion Expertise for expert champion class DC and spell attack rolls and spells DCs, and Divine Smite to deal persistent good damage equal to our charisma modifier to a creature we hit with our retributive strike. For our ancestry feat, Energized Wings lets us launch ourselves into the sky by granting us a 30-foot fly speed once per day for 1 minute. We'll take the Kip Up feat so we can be a bit more stalwart whenever we get knocked down by standing from prone as a free action without triggering any reactions. And for our class feat, Devoted Focus increases the amount of focus points we regain from refocusing to 2, which is good because our max focus pool is still 2. Anyway, level 11 Paladins gain Divine Will for master will saves and critical success results on regular successes, Alertness for expert perception proficiency, and Exalt to allow our allies within 15 feet to use their reaction to make a strike at -5 against a triggering enemy whenever we use our retributive strike. For our general feat, Die Hard gives us an extra mask, meaning we die at dying 5 rather than dying 4. I promised cleric spells, and all we got was some utility cantrips. That changes now with basic cleric spellcasting for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd level spell slot. Phantom Pain gives us a Dream Nail attack, forcing a will save on an enemy to deal 2d4 mental damage plus 1d4 persistent mental damage and giving them sickened 1 on a fail. Sloth Skin for an even better Blessing of Yzma, reducing the flat check to remove persistent damage from effects that coat our skin to 5 and gives us a +2 status bonus against contact poisons for 1 hour. And Whirling Scarves is our Dream Shield, giving us the concealed condition against melee and ranged attacks for 1 minute, giving anyone who misses a melee strike against us a -1 penalty to subsequent attacks against us until the end of their turn. And the flat concealment check for ranged attacks against us is 6 instead of 5. For our skill feat, Combat Climber prevents us from being flat-footed in combat while climbing, otherwise the Coliseum of Fools would be borderline impossible. Level 13 champions gain Weapon Mastery to increase our proficiency in simple and martial weapons and unarmed attacks to master, and Armor Mastery for master proficiency in all armor types. We'll get Overcharmed with Face Skin, we gain Weakness 5 to cold iron attacks, but we increase our max HP by our level, and whenever we rest for 10 minutes, we also regain hit points by an amount equal to our level in addition to normal treat wounds. We'll take Expert Cleric Spellcasting for a 4th and 5th level spell slot. We gain the Defender's Crest with Sanguine Mist to make a damaging cloud of fog in a 10-foot burst that we can sustain for up to 1 minute, concealing creatures within the area and forcing a Fortitude save on them, dealing 6d6 negative damage when we cast a spell, and 2d6 negative damage whenever we sustain the spell, and gaining half the damage dealt as temporary hit points that last a minute. We can alert everything connected to the radiance of our presence with Synaptic Pulse to force a will save on creatures within a 30-foot emanation, stunning creatures 1 on a success, stunning them 2 on a failure, and stunning them for 1 round on a critical failure. For our skill feat, Ravening's Desperation gives us a +1 bonus to survival checks whenever our HP is below half, increasing to a +2 bonus when our HP drops below a quarter, which might just be the edge you need to get to that next bench or stagway station. Level 15 champions gain greater weapon specialization for 6 base damage on our master weapon and unarmed strikes. The Numb to Death feat lets us recover additional HP equal to our level once per day the first time we will recover from dying, provided we've died at least once already. And let's be real, you've probably died a lot by now. At least your GM won't take all of your money away. Seriously, I lost like 15,000 GO right before I found out there was a bank you can save your money in, and I legit didn't play again for a week. I'm so terrible at video games. Level 16 Expert Cleric Spellcasters gain a 6th level spell slot. Spirit Blast gives us a harder hitting soul attack courtesy of the Shaman Stone to deal 16d6 force damage to the soul of a creature who fails a Fortitude save. Pretty handy if the thing you're attacking happens to actually be an incorporeal entity inside of a perfect vessel and not the vessel itself. We'll take the Quick Climber feat to gain a climb speed equal to our movement speed. Pretty self-explanatory since we still can only fly once per day. For our class feat, we're going all the way back and grabbing Attack of Opportunity to let us make a melee strike against a creature in our square who uses a manipulate or move action or attempts to leave our square since we're tiny, disrupting a triggering manipulate action on a critical hit. Honestly, by the end of the game, I think I was using exclusively Attacks of Opportunity on bosses out of pure fear. Level 17 champions gain Legendary Armor for Legendary Proficiency in all armor types, Champion Mastery for Master Champion class DC, and Divine Spell attacks and Divine Spell DCs. The Hero's Wings Sprite feat gives us a permanent fly speed, and we get revered by other sprites as a great hero, giving us a +2 circumstance bonus to diplomacy and initiative checks against other sprites, as well as the ability to make an impression on other sprites without the usual minute of conversation beforehand. Not that you get to enjoy it since you sacrifice everything to keep up the charade of Hollow Nest. Or did you? We'll take Master Cleric Spellcasting for a 7th level spell slot. We reconnect to the void we came from with Tempest of Shades, bringing forth all of the regrets of the world as a mass of swirling faces. On its arrival, it forces a Fortitude save on each creature in a 60-foot emanation, giving them the drain condition depending on their save. And the next round on its departure, it forces a will save, frightening creatures based on their save, and forcing creatures who critically fail to flee for a round or until they're no longer frightened. For our skill feat, Quick Swim gives us a swim speed equal to our movement speed. Thankfully, they never added a terrible water level to the game, but you never know if one might show up in your campaign or in Silksong. I really hope not though. Level 19 champions gain the Hero's Defiance Devotion spell, which allows us to regain hit points as a free action triggered by taking damage from any non-death effect that reduce our HP to 0. We gain 10d4 plus 20 hit points before taking the damage, and we don't die or fall unconscious if the health gained will keep our health above 0. But you've only got like 2 focus points, or 3 once per day I guess, and you don't really want to save it for if you're already losing a fight that badly. So we'll grab the toughness feat for another additional max HP equal to our level and easier recovery checks to make us the toughest tiny creature in existence. Level 20 Master Cleric Spellcasters gain an 8th level spell slot. Divine Inspiration lets us re-prepare a spell in one of our spent 6th level or lower slots and restores our focus points as if we had refocused, meaning I lied about only ever getting 3 focus points in a battle, and we can throw anything short of Tempest of Shades out at our foe up to twice a day, or 3 times perhaps. Divine Breath gives us an additional 1st through 6th level spell slot for more of everything we already love, but also for banishment, to send the radiance back to whatever dimension it came from, provided it fails a will save. For our final skill feat, Divine Guidance lets us suddenly remember our violent origins and our true purpose. Specifically, it means you get to perform a religion check and your GM gives you a lore dump so you can do what you need to do to save the world. I think. I don't know if any of these bugs actually wanted us to come do anything, we just kind of showed up. But now that we're level 20, let's talk about alternate endings. Originally we were going Fighter and eventually picking up Talisman Dabbler to give the feel of switching out charms between encounters. But talismans even now still have pretty niche applications, and being one-time use means they're all fragile charms for us. Hopefully we get some more exciting talismans in the future with Grand Bazaar or Dark Archive. Might be cool for a Silksong build, assuming Team Cherry actually keeps the charm system around. A War Priest was also on the table, since we'd be a Wisdom caster, get more spell slots, and the massive healing steroid that is Divine Font. Totally feel free to go this route if you want a more soul-focused night at your table, but I felt that being a bit more fighty up front felt like the right thing for the little nail wielder. And last, we never got a dash. Pretty much the only thing I think we left out, but we can already move in pretty much any way we want to, and we have better things to do with our focus points and our class feats than going down Monk, just so we can get like double move in one action. But now that that's out of the way, let's go over the pros and cons of this build. The most obvious strength is our built-in tankiness, 46 AC with braces of armor with the option to effectively use a shield, meaning our almost 350 hit points are going to last a long time. And let's not forget that we have quick heals thanks to Lay on Hands, and we can even regain extra hit points on rest with Phase Skin. Second is our huge versatility. We have options for taking down almost anything we might go up against between our spell list and our mobility. Now for the not so good. We took a weird path to access our focus spells, meaning we never got a 3-point focus pool. That's not so terrible since we have other ways of gaining our focus points when we really need it, but it means those options could come a little later than they probably should. Also, being a tiny creature without a reach weapon means getting right up and personal for melee attacks. Needing to occupy the same square to attack is effectively a 5-foot tax on our movement compared to other small and medium creatures in our party. And we can only threaten a single square with opportunity attacks and retributive strikes rather than the typical 9-square area. There's a reason sprites come with built-in options for ranged unarmed attacks. Thanks for tuning in to another build. Subscribe if you haven't and join the Patreon to support the channel and the vote between Crom, Kiryu Kazuma, or Shantae. And until next time, take care, stay safe, and play more Pathfinder.